What's up, world? It's your boy Derrick. Welcome back to the African Effect, and as always, here with my girl
Natalie.
What's up? What's up? It's been a minute, man, since we've done this, man, and
A long time.
I've had some people ask, like, where we at? Like, are we still recording?
Right.
Yeah, we're still recording for sure. You said what?
I've had people ask the same thing. They're like, "Are you guys gonna put out another episode?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Yeah, but life happens.
Life does happen. A lot's happened.
Yeah, it has. But we're back on it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give you guys what you've been asking for. But you know what? I was actually, this is actually something. I'm actually the one that was like, Derrick, we have to talk about this because you sent me the video. Remember? What was it that you sent me?
It was something about the 5 different types of men.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the alpha, beta.
And you were pretty passionate about that. Like, you were a little...
It pissed me off.
But why, though?
Okay, well, first, if you haven't, like, seen or heard of the video, it's actually like they have, like, an Instagram page and stuff, so we'll play some of the video here. But anyway, they go over the 5 different types of males, right? So the first one, and I'll give you guys a brief synopsis of each. So the first one that they talk about is the alpha male. And the characteristics of an alpha male is that an alpha male is self-confident, outgoing, and ambitious. Mm-hmm. And then they also go into beta male. Mm-hmm. And the characteristics of a beta male is that they are collaborative, they're introverts, and they don't necessarily lead all the time. They also allow the woman to lead, and they follow, etc. They don't follow. They are
collaborative.
Rules. Collaborative, like more so like, I'm gonna work with you. You're not gonna be the only one leading. I'm not gonna be the only one leading. We're gonna do this together.
And alpha men are not.
That's what I'm talking about. Just the basic characteristics. And then they go on to talk about omegas. I've never heard of this, but omegas are typically nerdy and laid back. And then gamma men are adventurous, fun-loving, and restless. And then
omega, you said omega are
nerdy, and laid back, pretty laid back and pretty nerdy. Yeah. So like your gamers or like people who are like really into sciences and not like super charismatic. And then your delta men are resentful, private, and aloof. So they're super to themselves, super private. They maybe have gone through something that made them resentful, and they're pretty much unaware of like anyone else around them. They're just kind of in their own world.
And a beta can't be resentful, or a alpha can't be resentful.
I'm just talking about the characteristics.
Look, I think that's straight poochie, but I don't believe in those other characteristics. I really don't.
So you think that there's only
only 2,
which is what?
An alpha or a beta.
Okay, so what is an alpha man to you? Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
No. Like usually, so typically an alpha man doesn't have to announce himself. His presence alone announces himself. How he speaks, how he approaches people, typically announces who he is as an individual. Right. You can tell an alpha male from, like real, like that video, real recognize real. But at the same time, ladies, you'll hear men who proclaim they are alpha men typically are not.
Right.
Like you said, your dad would always say, like an
empty vessel makes the most noise. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then you believe so what are the characteristics though of an alpha man? Do you know?
So first of all, he's very confident and self-aware. He understands who he is as a man. He understands his strengths and his weaknesses. Mm-hmm. He does not have to raise his voice and yell at you to get you in line. He can literally lead by a small conversation.
Or even just a look.
Or just a look. It does not require much. And typically guys who are running around here talking about, I'm an alpha man, I'm the man, you need to listen to me. Those are men who typically grew up in a household where, in my opinion, I felt like the woman was the head of the household. And he grew up seeing that and saying that, okay, you know what, this isn't going to happen when I get older. Or, it's more so to prove to himself
that he's not weak. Yeah.
Right. If you have to vocalize that, I feel like
you're not an alpha male.
You're really not. You're not that guy.
That's a good point. I can't disagree with that. So, what about? Okay, so I think I agree with you where I say all of these other characters, all of these other types of men, gamma, beta, omega, whatever, or gamma, delta. I don't believe in that. I think that there's only, if we are going to classify, I think that there's only alpha and beta. So, what do you think the characteristics of a beta male are?
So I didn't finish with alpha.
Oh, sorry.
But with alphas, they're also aggressive
Mm-hmm.
when need be.
Okay.
When they have to be. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have some alpha men who are overly aggressive.
Okay.
Right. And because, and I think women or people in general, don't like the thought or the conception that comes with the word alpha male. You deem that as the bad boy. An alpha man doesn't necessarily have to be a bad boy. He doesn't have to. Mm-hmm. Listen, growing up like in junior high school, women typically would go for the bad guy, the bad boy, the loud guy, the popular guy, because he comes off as that alpha male. That's not necessarily always the case.
Okay.
A lot of times they are actually bitch niggas. They're just loud. Loud and obnoxious.
And popular.
And want attention. Think about all the popular kids that you know from back in high school. Popular girls or women. They pregnant with 8 kids or 3 different baby daddies. Even the men, they got 5 baby mamas, or like they're just like all over the place. Right? But
no structure.
they were the alpha men in high school. But if you think about it, like a lot of like coming up in high school, junior high, like we were all coming into our own. We were trying to figure out who we are as boys and girls, right? Men and women, right? So, I believe an alpha man is self-confident. He's confident in himself. He knows his strengths, his weaknesses. He also knows when to allow people to show themselves, right? He knows how to like, he doesn't have to force his way into your life. He doesn't have to force his way into situations. He doesn't have to say, hey, I'm taking over on this project because I'm an alpha man. I know what I'm doing. No, typically they kind of observe, feel the room, read the room, and understand that this is what needs to be done. That's my approach. Okay. I'm not saying that that's the approach of every man. Some men like to barge their way in. Right. So.
Okay. I mean, okay. I can agree. I think, okay.
You don't agree.
No, I do agree.
I see that look on your face like.
I do agree. Because I've dated alpha men, and I've unfortunately been involved with beta men as well. So what would you say are the characteristics of a beta man?
They're usually the loud ones, the ones that tell you I'm an alpha, in my opinion. Right? They try to, because for instance, your brother Josh, he's an alpha male. I can recognize it.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't have to tell me,
and he doesn't say it, but he
so
is.
Josh and I can be in the same room, and another man walks in, and based off of his approach and how he carries himself, how he talks, how he walks, we can recognize, oh yeah, he a bitch. You know.
So are you saying beta men are bitches?
I'm not necessarily saying that they're bitches, but that's just my way of.
I mean, because you know. I mean,
listen, a lot of people ain't gonna like me for saying that, but even like folks that are married, man, and are married to like beta men, right? I get it, man. I disagree with that definition that, you know,
beta men are collaborative.
Beta men are collaborative. Alpha men can be collaborative too.
I mean, I think a beta man is. I don't think that there's a negative connotation with either an alpha or a beta man.
There isn't.
Right?
I don't think
so.
But
I think that a beta man is definitely much more willing to submit at certain times to their partner than an alpha man is. I think when they use the word collaborative, I think that that's where they're coming from, because I think that a beta man is kind of more like, I don't feel like leading today. You do it. Or, yeah, I don't feel like I feel like when it comes to gender roles, beta men that line is very blurred with them. When it comes to gender roles with alpha men, that line is very clear. And I think that is like the biggest difference. So you can essentially, like, if you're a woman, and I think that more women prefer beta men, but we're going to get into that. But I think that is probably the resounding difference between the two, is that an alpha man is very sure of his capabilities and what he can do.
Right.
And he's probably not going to enter into a situation where he wouldn't be able to lead. Whereas a beta man is like, okay, I might not be able to lead, but let me enter into this and let's see what we can do. Which is why I don't like beta men at all. So if you're a beta man, stay away from me. I don't like you.
So you said you've dated a beta man, right? Did you understand then that he was a beta man?
Yep.
Okay, so if you don't like beta men, why did you stay with this individual?
I didn't stay with him for long, but life is all about experiences. So I was like,
True.
let me see this, let me experience this. Because honestly, if I'm being honest, as a woman, when I was younger, I had met 2 men that I would consider to be alpha men, and I wasn't ready for that because they demand a certain level of maturity. They demand a certain level of like respect or whatever. And I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for all of that seriousness, right? So I decided, let me just go to something where I know won't require me to be this way, because I'm not ready to do that right now. And so I went to the beta man, and then when I went to the beta man, I quickly realized that I wasn't ready to do that shit either. So I was like, let me just be single, because this is not what I want. But beta men, in my experience, now that I'm older, quite honestly, I'll put it like this, and I know people might hate me, especially women, but do I care? No. I'll put it like this. You're either an alpha man or you're not an alpha man. I don't care what else you are. You could be beta, delta, gamma, whatever, but you're either an alpha man or you're not. An alpha man, in my opinion, is the depiction of what a man is supposed to be.
Yes, Lord.
Right? So if you're anything outside of that, you're a placeholder until I'm at the point. If you're anything other
hold on. We're not about to just skip over that. So beta men to you are placeholders.
Beta men are placeholders.
For alpha men.
Yes, because until I am able or I am ready
for that
alpha man, I'm going to deal with the beta man. But as a woman, as a real woman, which I identify as, and without saying it, in my profession, as you know, like, I'm pretty much like in a leadership role or whatever, and it's tiring as a woman. I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I come home, I don't want to do that. I will deal with that until I'm ready to get an alpha man. I don't care. There's never going to be a time in any galaxy that Natalie will, if I ever get married again, it's not going to be to a beta man, because I'm already tired right now. I don't have time to be like, do you think we should do this? I don't know. What do you think?
So let me ask you. So, and I don't want to, like, we've had this conversation about, being married and divorce and all of that. So did you feel like he was a alpha or a beta man?
I don't know what he was, but I'm going to say he wasn't an alpha man, though.
Well,
but you know what I will say, though, and I want to hear what you have to say about this. And this is not an African thing, because I think that I can say confidently as a woman, as an African woman, that most African women want an alpha man.
Yes, hands down.
Yeah. Most African women don't want a beta man, and most African women's families won't tolerate a beta man.
No, they won't.
But do you think that...
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I really want to talk about... I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to respond to whatever it is that you have to say. But I also want to tackle that from the Black perspective.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole different... But, okay. So do you think that more women prefer, this day and age, an alpha man or a beta man?
Beta.
Why?
So, like you said, they come off as collaborative,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds like to me he's more submissive and will bend to my will more
Right.
so than me conforming to what it is he sees life fit for us.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So and that's why I said I'm glad you said that, because when dating or in a relationship with black women,
Mm-hmm.
and I hear this from a lot of black men, that they are not cooperative
At all. I've
at
heard that.
all. And they use their degree, their education,
Mm-hmm.
as a form of a reason to behave the way that they behave,
Mm-hmm. Or a reason to not listen.
or a reason not to listen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is very problematic for
Mm-hmm.
and I think you mentioned it earlier. Like you said something about a woman using her strengths or or realizing her truth, like within her femininity or something like that. As a
Maybe in another episode, not today.
Okay.
But yeah, I have mentioned that before.
But yeah, like for what I can understand that, and I know for a fact that in the African community, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
African women prefer alpha men,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times they're going to bring some sort of order,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
As it pertains to the black community, it's the total opposite,
Mm-hmm.
and it is viewed as a why. Let me ask you that: as a woman, why is dealing with an alpha male so negative? Why does it have this negative connotation to it?
I think.
Why is it that alpha men are looked at, true alpha men,
Mm-hmm.
right, as like this aggressive, obnoxious, just controlling? Why is that?
I think it's because and I can only speak for the African American community. I can't speak for the African community, but I think it's because there are two things. I think because in the African American community, unfortunately, the women have broken the men down so much that the men have to actually verbally project that they're powerful. The men have to actually verbally project that they bring something to the table, when in actuality, they may not always. But because they've been broken down so much, they have to do that. In the African community, men are not broken down like that. Men
No.
are actually held on a pedestal, or, celebrated the way that they should be, so they don't have to project that, And so I think that when African American women hear a man project, I'm powerful, I'm confident, I'm a leader, they naturally, just because of like history, are like that. It's a trigger thing for them. Like, oh, you want to control me? Oh, you want to control my household? Oh no, you're not going to come in here and do all of that, because I don't think that they're used to that, because society has taught African American women that like the man is not necessarily an asset. So when you have a man that comes in and says all of these things and does all of these things, it's naturally perceived as like super aggressive, super controlling, whatever. As opposed to like the African community, when a man doesn't do that, he's seen as weak. He's seen as like,
weak.
what are you doing? Like, where were
Yep.
you raised? Like, what's going on? Because African women understand their role. And African women, I know a lot of African women, they're doctors, lawyers, whatever. They understand their role. Like you're not about to come into like you're not about to see them controlling their men. And for the ones that do, that man is ridiculed and that woman is not seen as anything in the
That's
African
true.
community.
That is very
right?
true.
But in the African American community, it's not that way. There's no accountability held for any of that kind of behavior. It's almost natural.
Right.
And so I think that is why it's seen as negative in the African American community, in my opinion. But I think like overall, when people hear, like, for example, with an alpha male, if an alpha male says, this is how I want my family run. I want my family run this way. I want my wife to be this way. I want my children to have this type of education. People naturally will see that as controlling, because everybody's all about like free will and this and all that stuff. But the thing that people fail to realize is that if you trust your man to lead your household the way that God says a man is supposed to lead the household, that's not controlling.
No,
it's actually a relief.
Yeah.
Because you have direction, and you have a like, okay, this is, if you don't align with the way that he wants to raise his family or the way that he wants his kids to be, don't get with him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, don't deal with him.
Right.
But he's telling you, this is my vision.
Right.
This is what I want.
Right.
And as a woman, your job is to add to that. If you don't want to add to it, then go find someone you want to add to. But what normally happens is a woman will say, I'm not dealing with that. That's controlling. And then she's going to go to a beta man. And then what's going to happen? She's going to burn out in like 2 years because she's like, God damn, I got to make all the goddamn decisions here.
Yep.
And then she's going to go look for that alpha man who's probably already gone and married and happy.
Yep.
And then it's going to be like, oh, it's not enough good black men out here. It's not enough good men out here. No, there were, but you just weren't willing to assimilate.
Exactly.
Wow. But then you do have some men who take that alpha man thing too far. Right? So they, like you said, they're over here talking about, I'm an alpha male, I'm an alpha male, I'm an alpha male. But then when you ask them to lead, they don't. They can't. Or they can't.
They can't. And,
right?
and I can attest to that because even like in corporate America, man, just dealing with work, man. So like I said, that usually my approach is to like read the room, right? Allow people to show themselves, show their true cards. Right. And I found that a lot of times dealing with work, man, like having to deal with like high end government officials or whatever. I see like my coworkers, whenever they get in front of these people, they hesitate a lot. They're not, they start to become unsure of what, they know.
Right.
Right. Working in the IT world, like IT's IT, bro. Like it's always evolving or whatever. But when it comes to like dealing with people who are in position of power, for me, like it's nothing. Like you put your pants on the same way I put my pants on.
That's right.
You a human being just like I am. All right. So for me, it's more about respect, right? Respecting who you are as an individual, but at the same time, respecting who I am. God called me to be, right? And I understand who I am as a man. I don't have to prove myself to you.
Right.
But in the process, you are going to respect me.
Right.
Why? Because I am a man. And that's it.
And I agree.
But for the guys who typically feel like they have to, and I hear you loud and clear, like
a lot of men
when
do
we're
that.
talking about like the African American culture, like that their women have broken their men down to the point where they have to vocalize who they are as an individual. And that's not necessarily always the case because there are black men out there who, alpha men who like, I don't have to choose you.
Yeah, but then but that's coming now. But I've even talked to some of my friends who are African American and they tell me, and this is not to pin Africans against African Americans.
No, of course not.
I'm just being honest. So when I ask them, have you ever dated an African? And they're like, yeah. Some of them say that they will never go back to dating an African American. And I was like, what? They actually said that dating an African woman, like the things that an African woman would do or allow them to do, they were very surprised. They were like, oh, you're letting me do this? And they were very surprised. They didn't even know how to deal with it. And they were like, I was very surprised at that. And and they said then going to the African American woman, it's like, you're not about to do that. Don't talk to my kids like that. You're not their dad, like that kind of attitude. And for any man, it's hard to deal with. But then on the flip side, when you have a man that wants so badly to be a leader, but is not capable and doesn't, like you said, understand his weaknesses and doesn't want to like ask for help. Because sometimes, and I personally, this is me. So the alpha men that I've known are so aware of themselves that they are very confident in their strengths and they're also very confident in their weaknesses. So they know, know they're like, this is not my thing. This is not my steez. Can you do this? And they allow you to take control of that because they trust you. Right. But when you are a man that is not a true alpha trying to be one, you're not even going to listen to that. You're going to be like, no, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And then you fuck up.
Yep.
And then everybody in your household has to deal with it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that's not the kind of man that, anybody should deal with. So women should be very careful of dealing with a man that looks the part but is not actually the part, because he's actually going to bring you more trouble in the end.
Ooh,
trust me.
Yeah,
because you're going to have to be fixing all of his messes.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about when you say like these men are telling you like they've dated African women and they allowed them to be themselves and experience certain things, and they're like even when I dated black women, like wait, you're not like most men that I date. I know. I know and I understand that, because most of the men that you do deal with, like, they are accustomed to having to deal with women who either belittle them or like bring them down some type of way, or they don't have proper leadership, right? And they don't have any type of understanding of who they are as men in general.
Or they grew up in homes where their mother was the primary person that was taking care of them.
And
so
a
they're
lot
kind
of
of used to
that's
that.
the case.
Mm-hmm. So in that conversation that we were referencing from earlier,
that the video,
mm-hmm. They also talked about alpha women. And why are you laughing?
Because I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
They also talked about alpha women. And there are a lot of women out here who claim to be alpha women. What do you think about that?
So
I wish y'all could see Derrick's face right now.
Listen, there's no such thing as an alpha woman. There's no such thing as an alpha woman. You're not an alpha woman. And if you are, all you did was embody the role of a man, only to either protect yourself from something or to feel like I am secure enough to take care of myself where I don't need a man. Well, women need men. Men also need women. Mm-hmm. We need each other. Mm-hmm. And until we get to a place where women, until you get to a place
we all know how you feel about women.
Listen. I don't listen. It makes sound like I hate women. I don't like women.
Does it?
I don't.
Okay.
I understand the position of a woman. Mm-hmm. I understand their weaknesses. I understand also their strengths. Mm-hmm. Also, do I understand my weaknesses and my strengths? Mm-hmm. And I understand what my role is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Right? So if my role is, it's my job to lead you, to guide you, to protect you, to nurture you, because I'm not only supposed to protect and provide financially, I also have to nurture you.
That's right.
Right? I also have to put you in a position to become your full version of yourself.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And if I can't, what am I there for?
Right.
So, and I think until women are willing, I'm talking about the women who say, I don't need a man.
They're alpha women.
I'm an alpha woman. Until you are willing to accept that you have weaknesses and that you require and you need a man to accomplish certain things in life that you can't do by yourself, mm-hmm. you will always go through that revolving door. Because most alpha men, true alpha men, will not go for an alpha woman who's taking on the role of a man. Why?
Right.
We got to deal with that.
I mean, I think that...
This is my opinion.
Well, I think that... I think that... Okay. Now, I might get heat for this. I don't disagree with you that the term... You know what? Actually, I do disagree with you. The term alpha woman does exist. I do believe that term exists. However, that it's a temporary thing, right?
Is it?
Yes, because...
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
What about the... Okay, what about the ones that are growing old and living by themselves and telling their daughters or telling their nieces or whatever that you don't need a man, you don't need this.
Not all alpha women say that they don't need. If we go with the idea that an alpha woman actually does exist,
You're right. You're right.
So what I'm saying is, like, men have attributed to
Yes, they have.
women having to assume the role of men, right? So when you have men that don't step up to the plate, when you have men,
Let me ask this:
mhm,
which type of men? Which culture?
I
Because
mean
that matters.
BS men, all kinds of men. Like if you're a man that
Okay.
doesn't take care of your responsibilities and doesn't do what you're supposed to do, what is a woman supposed to do? Especially if she has children, she doesn't have a choice. She has to step up, right? She has to do what she's supposed to do. So she builds up this like tough exterior,
Yep.
and she kind of is a self-proclaimed alpha woman. Or if she's super successful and she's built her business from the ground up, she's gonna self-proclaim herself as an alpha woman. But in saying that they do exist, I will say that it's temporary, because there's no woman that I firmly believe that there are certain traits and characteristics of men and women. And as a woman, there are certain things that you can do, but only for so long before you get tired of it.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
as a woman, the domestic stuff, the cooking, the cleaning, and all that stuff, I can do that easily.
Mhm.
Right? But having to pay all my bills, having to take out the trash, having to make decisions about like my son's education, like just by myself, all of that stuff, it's exhausting. On
Why
top
is
of
having to pay your bills so exhausting? You're an
because
adult.
I don't want to.
You're an adult.
But what I'm saying is that when I think about it, when I think about all of the bills that I pay on my own,
Mhm.
and by God's grace, I'm able to do it
Mhm.
pretty easily, right? I think about all of the bills that I pay on my own. I'm like, dang, if I had a partner, I could be, doing whatever the hell I want to do. Like I could be living like I could be putting this towards something. I could be
Right.
building or whatever, but
Right.
I have less free will or free time with my money because I don't have a partner that I can
Right.
actually, depend on to help me with this. So it's not there are certain things that are natural for a woman to do.
Yeah.
And then and I always tell you this. I'm like, when a woman's goal in life is to be equal to a man, she has already failed. She has
Let's
already failed.
hold on. I don't think the people in the back heard you.
All
Say
right,
it
for y'all
again.
that didn't hear me. When a woman's goal in life is to be equal to a man, she has already failed. Because we give men heat for having feminine traits, right? So we give men hell for having feminine traits. But when a man gives you hell for having male traits, he's trying to belittle you. It doesn't work that way, ladies. I'm sorry.
No.
So that's what I'm trying to say is like, I'm not trying to tell any woman out there. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm the first person that's going to tell you, don't submit to any man that you get with. Just because he's your man, don't submit to him.
Yes.
Only submit to him if you trust him.
Yes.
Be decisive. Use discernment.
Okay, listen. Okay. I'm with you there until you said if you trust him. Only if you trust him. So you like I've always said, and I'm gonna continue to echo this. You need and you require a positive male role in your life that can depict everything that man is doing and what he's about.
What I'm saying is everybody is at a certain level in life, right? So if I meet a woman and she's at a certain level in life, maybe that is not at my level. I'm not, and she trusts her man at whatever level they're at. That's her thing. You know what I'm saying? Like she trusts him and they trust each other and they have that. That's their thing. Everybody's relationship is different. Maybe my level of trust for a man might be different because I have a child. So there are certain things that, you know what I'm saying? That I'm like, all right, I'm not just looking at this. I'm also looking at this. You know what I mean? So it's like whatever your level is, if you trust him and you're wise enough and that's what you want to do at that time, go ahead and do that. But don't submit to every man because these niggas out here these niggas out here.
Yeah, it's a lot of fakes out there. A whole lot of fakes out there, and man, and they give true men a bad name, and it's unfortunate.
I mean, but I can say this. African men, I've dated African American men. And there's no African American man that I've dated that I would say was an alpha male. Because they're very few, far and in between. I have never dated an alpha male that was an African American. Never. I've dated or seen African American men that appeared to be alpha. And I was like, me being who I am, I was like, okay, I can forego the fact that they're not African, because we all know as Africans, that's another
So is
barrier.
that only? So would you say it would be because of the type of African men that you've dated?
No.
And the culture that you come from?
No. Because I am more than willing to date an African American. You know what? I'm lying. There's only one. Only one. But for the most part, with the African American men that I've encountered, most of them appear to be alpha men. And so I'm intrigued because that's what I'm used to, being African, right? So I'm like, okay, in order for me to be able to date this person and look towards a long-term relationship as an African American, they have to be something, because we know that that's something, that's a barrier you have to go through when you're an African, if you're dating outside of the African culture.
Right.
When you get to know them and you actually get down to it, you realize that they're not.
But they're not.
So if I'm going to date a beta man, he has to be, I'd rather him be African than African American. I can't deal with a beta, period, but I'd rather deal with that African beta than an African American.
Because I get it, because even with dealing with an African beta, there's still some level of understanding of like roles.
Of roles, yeah. And don't be misunderstood. Most African women are heavy hitters. Like, most African women have their shit together.
They do.
Most African women are very much like, they have the capability to lead, but they understand their roles. And African men know that. So that's the beauty in understanding like the roles and understanding the gender roles and understanding that, because African women are so much of a heavy hitter that they hold you to a standard. Man,
listen.
So as an African man, you can't be a beta, because if you are,
beta,
not just her, but her family and your family is going to be like, what are you doing?
They're going to roast you.
Roast you. So I don't know. I mean,
and your mom's a roaster.
Mommy.
Listen, man, I've heard conversations, man.
And my dad, I would say, passed it on to like my brothers. And after meeting your dad, I could say too, my dad did not talk a lot. Just like your dad doesn't talk much, right? Yeah. But his presence was felt.
It's the presence,
man. And even my mom, because they're divorced, but sometimes all we had to say was, all right, I'm going to call dad. And she'd be like, you ain't got to do all that. Like, you ain't got to call. Because just his presence settles everything. He maybe didn't have like the biggest house. He didn't have like the most money. He didn't have anything like that. But his wisdom, his leadership is something that you can't find anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And just like with your dad, and just like with my mom, there are some points where you'll hear my mom say, with her and my dad, because of the broken relationship, like, I probably should have just tried to work it out, because it's like, you don't find that type of leadership often. Honestly, there are not a lot of alpha men out there. So,
ladies, man, dealing with a true alpha man, don't let it scare you. Do not let it scare you. Do not let it run you off because you feel like he's going to control you. He's going to be super aggressive. I guarantee you, true alpha men a lot of times understand who they are as men. They understand their role. They know their weaknesses, and they understand how to approach situations. They know how to lead. They're not super aggressive. Men who are typically super aggressive they're not true men. They're not. They're still growing emotionally. They don't understand themselves. And a lot of times they were raised by, a woman. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it is.
It can because have its bad.
Yeah.
But then you also have to like learn to separate, I think, as women and as men. Like, some women having a man hold you accountable, and having a man that like sets expectations, because most men who are real men, they want their women to be you're a direct reflection
You are
of them.
a direct reflection.
So
of
in
that
some
man.
cases, when they're calling you out on their stuff, it's not because they think you're beneath them or they're trying to control you, but they really see something in you. And because my experience is that like a real man is not going to waste his time with someone that he sees no potential in.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, just think about it like that. And these men out here who claim to be alpha men, like, you know if you're an alpha man or if you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And ladies out here like that claim to be alpha women, like, you got to hang up that hat. Like, once you hit 30, stop talking about you're an alpha woman. Like, stop it. Like, stop. Talking about you're an alpha woman and I make this and I do this and I do that. And then you wonder why you ain't got no man.
Don't
like,
no man
it.
care about that, man. Don't no man care about that.
Like, stop doing that.
Well, I'll say this. There are certain men out there who do care about that because they see you as a benefit. They see you as, someone to fund their habits and their laziness and all of that, man. You got to be careful of these dudes, man.
Yeah, but these alpha women out here, these men that are with you, you think you got a man, and you guys are doing big things together or whatever, but they're with you for the money. But, on the days that you don't talk to them, they're getting their food served on a golden platter by, another female. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be careful of that. Like, all the stuff you're not doing, he out there getting it from somebody else. And she probably look 5 times worse than you. Yeah. But it's because she makes him feel like a man. That's it. Like, she makes him feel like a man. Like, women need men. Like, I need him. I need my man. I'm not going to say I don't need a man. I need my man. Like, that's it.
Well, it's been real, man. It's been a minute since we've had this. We've had conversations. I hope you share your comments and tell us what you think. At some point, we're going to do a session where we actually allow people to tell us what they want us to address, talk about. Being married, divorced, or single, or thinking about getting married, or in the process of being married and all that. Like, we're basically here for you, man. And we're open to any and every conversation, except one.
But we didn't forget about y'all. We really appreciate all of the support that we've gotten since we started this podcast. Like, there are a lot of people that have supported us, and we sincerely appreciate it. And we will make sure that we don't go on such a hiatus again. If Derrick can get it together, we will be releasing episodes in a timely manner. But no, share your thoughts. One thing I'm gonna call these people out. One thing I've noticed is a lot of people, they don't share their thoughts in the comment section, but they will text you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Listen, I stopped replying to those, man. I stopped replying to those, and I just refer people to the pod. Like, hey, you got something, like, I refer them to a specific episode. Oh, you know what I want to talk about?
What?
I really want to talk about mommy issues.
You know what?
I want to talk about mommy issues, and as it pertains to men.
Yeah, there are a lot of men with mommy issues.
And then especially
African men.
Yeah, especially African men. Yeah. And they carry that shit over into a marriage.
And into a relationship. That's horrible. It's the worst thing ever. I literally was married to somebody with mommy issues.
Oh.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
Listen, until next time, man, we love y'all. Peace.
Bye, guys.
Bye.